Angeles. Well, how would you like to take a walk? Our next guest did just that. He's Anthony Lambing, and wow, what a story, Debbie. This guy flew to North Carolina and then took a walk and walked and walked, and before you know it, Anthony, where did you end up finally?
I wound up in San Diego, California.
So it wasn't just an accident. We don't want to make it sound like you just started walking one day and, wow, I'm in California. What possibly could have inspired you to do this?
My favorite movie, Forrest Gump. That sounds like a joke, but that actually is a big inspiration. Knowing that was fiction, the curiosity just got the best of me, and I had to jump on Google and find out, okay, well, this guy ran back and forth a few times. What would realistically, how long would it take? Is it even feasible? And so that curiosity sparked me into looking into it, and I found out that there's a lot of people who had ran across and walked across. And once that was in my head, it never really went away. And I didn't do it right away, but within a couple years, I found myself in a position to fly out and get started.
What kind of position was that? Unemployment?
No, actually, I work for Target, and they take care of me pretty well, so they actually gave me an educational leave of absence. So it was basically the same as going away to school for a semester. So I was able to keep my position, keep my insurance, and all of that, and just sort of,
well, go Target.
My dream.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Now, you are from Imperial, correct? And a couple of warm-ups, just, because people go, oh, yeah, he walked across the country. But just imagine folks walking out the door in Imperial and then walking to the Arch. You did that a couple of times, right? Just for the heck of it?
Yeah, and that was sort of, this was probably 4 or 5 years ago. I had a week off of work for paid vacation, and I hadn't budgeted the money very well, so I didn't really have enough to even put money in the gas tank. And I said, I'm not just going to sit here all week and watch TV. And so I just decided I was just going to walk to the Arch because, I don't know, it's a landmark, and it was a definitive end. And after I did it once, some people kind of thought I was crazy, but they also kind of wanted to join along. So it kind of became an unofficial tradition, and me and some friends would do it a few times a year.
But this trek from North Carolina to San Diego, when did you complete that?
Actually, it'll be 2 years that I'll be back next week. I started on August 8th of 2011 and finished in January 21st to 2012. And it was actually the newspaper article listed as Charlotte, North Carolina, but it was actually Charleston, South Carolina. Is where I started from. But, I mean, that's about the same mileage anyway.
I used to live in South Carolina, and people would do that all the time. Nobody can keep those two states straight.
Right.
So how many pairs of shoes does a person go through while walking across the U.S.?
I really didn't know, and I guess just depending on different people's strides and maybe the brand of shoes, it varies a lot. Personally, for me, it was just 2 pairs. I switched out in Texas, and I was just wearing some hiking boots that had good reviews. I really probably could have got away with just tennis shoes. I don't know if those would have worn out any faster or slower. But for me, yeah, just 2.
Well, they say you're supposed to change your shoes every 200 or so miles, aren't you?
I'm not sure about that. If so, then I was over the limit quite a bit. I averaged walking about 5 days a week, and usually about 20 miles a day.
And what brand of shoes?
They were Merrell.
How do you spell that?
Merrrel.
Okay.
All right. I think the people who say you have to get new shoes every 200 miles are the people who sell the shoes.
No doubt.
I'm just guessing. So tell us, a lot of people who have done this, they're promoting a cause or they're raising money for this or that, but that was not your goal.
No, really, it was just a personal goal. I wanted to test of strength, a test of mental strength, and it was a hard decision. Part of me wanted to find a cause to raise money for or something to represent, but so much of it was just my own wanting to do it that I didn't want to ever feel guilty if I was being interviewed for a newspaper or for television and they asked me, what are you doing this for? I didn't want to plug a cause that, although I might agree with what they're doing, it wouldn't be the actual reason I was doing it for. So I decided, just for, a clean conscience, just to claim it as it was, that I'm doing this for myself.
Did you listen to radio or music along the way?
Yeah, a lot of music, pretty much. So when I first started, I was a little scared because, I wanted to keep my ears on the road and things like that. And so I would play it from much. And after a couple states in, I decided it was all right as long as I stayed alert and was walking against traffic, that I could go ahead and throw the headphones in and save the battery.
All right, if you're just tuning in, Anthony Lambing is our guest, Imperial native who walked across the country just because he was inspired by Forrest Gump. I imagine when you're doing something like this, you meet a lot of interesting people along the way. Anyone in particular that stands out? Anyone you still keep in touch with?
Probably too many to actually name. But I would just say that for me, it was the kindness of strangers was something that I was hoping for, but my expectations on that were just blown away. Every single state, especially in the South and in Texas, people wanted to know what I was doing. They wanted to know how they could help. And that was probably the biggest thing I took away from this. If it's going to be anything, it's going to be the kindness of strangers and what they'll do for you without even knowing. I still am in touch with some of the people that hosted me. I wound up actually in Midland, Texas during a couple days before Thanksgiving, and a family actually took me in, and I stayed and was invited to their family Thanksgiving. And so my parents were really glad for that. They didn't like the idea of it being Thanksgiving and me just being in a tent or in a motel by myself. So that was the Shaw family in Midland, Texas, and they took me to a movie, a bunch of stuff, and I was able to stay in their house and get some good rest for about 4 days.
How old are you, by the way, sir?
I was 26 when I did the walk, and I'm currently 28.
Okay, and any injuries, or were you ever in harm's way?
No, not really. The first couple weeks, my feet were, sore and blistered and things, but after that, really, not at all. It all became very automatic. With no home or no job at that time, there wasn't really much else to do. I couldn't wake up and say I don't feel like walking today, because that would mean sitting, completely stationary. So, but I enjoyed it a lot. There was hardly ever a day, maybe if it was rainy or something, where I just said I don't want to walk today. But yeah, it was just a lot of daydreaming, lots of picture taking. I really enjoyed it, and so the 20 miles a day was pretty easy, if you ask me.
All right, so when you got to San Diego, then did you fly back home? And now that you're home, are you restless if you're not walking somewhere?
I did fly back home, and there was a bit of an adjustment period. I went back to work, and I would say that everything just felt a little more boring. And I didn't realize how much I'd gotten used to seeing something new every single day. For 5.5 months, I never saw the same thing twice. I might have seen a McDonald's every other day, but it was always in a different town with different scenery and things like that. And so there was a period of adjustment where I had to get used to realizing that I'm going to see these same roads every day. I'm going to see the same people every day. So yeah, there was a period of adjustment, a little bit of boredom, and I would be lying if I said that there wasn't still a little bit of an itch to do something similar to that.
Isn't that
but
something?
I haven't decided on anything yet.
Wow. Anthony Lambing from Imperial walked from South Carolina to San Diego, and he just joined us on Kmox. Anthony, thanks a lot for doing so.
Oh, no problem.
All right, and you can also read more about this in Harry Jackson.